The May 9th, 2018 Prosper Portland Board of Commissioners meeting is now convened. Anne, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Platt.
Present.
Commissioner Lambetti.
Here.
Commissioner Merlin Capuya.
Yes, here.
Commissioner Myers.
Here.
Chair Foos.
Here. Thank you. All right, we'll start with commissioner reports. Commissioner Platt, would you like to start?
Yes, attended and chaired the Hacienda CDC board meeting on Friday, May 4th.
Commissioner Gambetti?
I attended the opening of Natural Grocers on April 17th. I attended the developer interviews for the ODOT blocks on April 25th. And I attended a fundraising dinner and night of trivia for Open School on May 2nd.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Myers?
Attended the State of the City at PCC, the State of the City discussion the following day, and the grand opening ribbon cutting for the Natural Grocers.
Commissioner Merlin Capuya?
April 17th, also participated in the Natural Grocers soft opening, and then we'll have a Hill Block meeting today.
Great, thank you. On May 13th, I attended the Mayor's State of the City luncheon at City Club, or excuse me, March 13th, that is. March 16th, I attended the Northwest District Association board meeting. March 17th, the Hispanic Metropolitan Chamber board meeting. April 18th, the Natural Grocers opening event. May 1st, the Portland Business Alliance annual breakfast. And May 5th, the Portland Center Stage annual gala. Now, the Executive Director report. Executive Director Branham.
Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. So we've had a very full month since our last meeting in April. I too attended the State of the City, both of them, and have a lot of other things, so I'm going to get right to it. So Prosper Portland was a proud sponsor of the Opportunity Youth Fair that was held on Friday, April 13th. We joined an extraordinary effort co-hosted by Gateway to College, the National Network, and Work Systems, Inc. There was support from Starbucks and Meyer Memorial Trust and 100,000 Opportunities Initiative to get more young adults into the workforce. There's a actually high rate of unemployment amongst our youth, and so it was an endeavor to connect them. More than 1,200 youth showed up on this first annual event. 63% of the attendees self-identified as people of color, and more than 100 of the attendees walked out of the event with job offers with an average salary of $14.30 an hour. So good success for the first year of an event, and we look forward to participating in the future. I also spoke and attended at the Natural Grocers soft opening and grand opening on April 17th and 18th. There were approximately 400 people who attended those two events, enjoyed music by Norman Sylvester, and the comments by the two artists. If you haven't seen the work, really, it's an extraordinary, by R.B. Smith and H.O., incredible murals. I do want to acknowledge the project team, so Majestic and Colas Construction, the IMAC committee who put in a lot of hours, particularly Tony Jones, who helped to ensure that we met our objectives, along with the Metropolitan Contractors Improvement Partnership. And I want to acknowledge the incredible staff work that went into a project that we learned a lot from and that ultimately ended in very positive outcomes. So Kim Moreland and Eric Jacobson, Tori Campbell, Susan Kuhn, Ann Mangan, and Lisa Norwood, thank you. I attended the Tech Town Roundtable on Friday, April 30th with a number of technology chief executives. The point of the roundtable was to engage the top leaders and to do a check-in a few years into the Tech Diversity Initiative to discuss what's working and what's not and how we redouble our efforts to ensure that one of our fastest growing industry not only increases hiring but also retention of diverse talent. We've seen improvements in hiring and in retention of women, so that's positive, but we have a ways to go in terms of inclusion of people of color increasing dramatically. Had an opportunity to welcome new partners to the Portland metro area at a new market leaders reception that Greater Portland Inc. hosted, including a number of new businesses that have been recruited to Portland. It includes In Situ and Rumpel and ACA Interiors, as well as some new executives who are joining as partners. Ruth William Brinkley, who's heading up Kaiser, and Andrew Hone, who's the incoming Chief Executive Officer of the Portland Business Alliance. So on that note, I attended the Portland Business Alliance annual meeting on Tuesday, May 1st, and had an opportunity to recognize and appreciate Sandy McDonough, who's retiring from the Alliance and has been a stalwart champion of education in particular and of the business community locally. And had the opportunity to meet with Congresswoman Bonamici, along with Portland Housing Bureau Director Shannon Callahan on May 2nd, where we heard from her about some of the priorities at the federal level and talked a lot about what's happening in her district. The post office is in her district, Centennial Mills is in her district, but also opportunities for partnerships for some of our economic development and other local priorities. Prosper Portland was a proud sponsor of the 34th annual Cinco de Mayo Festival presented by the Portland Guadalajara Sister Association over the weekend. The Accelerate Fund has announced that they're accepting applications from female founders in their second cohort. Prosper Portland's really proud to partner with this incredible ongoing effort. You can go to acceleratefund.com for more details. The application deadline is coming up. It's Wednesday, May 16th. So if you're interested, please do consider it. And although we consider every week to be Small Business Week, fun fact is that about 95% of the businesses that we work with across our functions are small businesses, which aligns with the profile of our overall economy, which really is a small business supported economy. But the first week of May is officially the National Small Business Week. So small businesses that are looking for support and to understand what is happening and how their local economic development agency can support them are encouraged to go to our Inclusive Business Resource Network page at prosperportland.us/IBRN or to call us anytime. And earlier today, had the opportunity, along with Chair Cruz, to present our proposed budget to City Council. I want to thank everyone at Prosper Portland who has helped us to prepare this budget, especially Tony Barnes, who is our finance officer, the entire finance team for their work, and I want to recognize that this is Faye Brown's last budget process, and she's our wonderful CEO, so I want to recognize the incredible amount of work that goes into putting our budget together. It was a great conversation with City Council. We were particularly heartened to see the level of additional investment in our Inclusive Business Resource Network, which was what we talked about at the last session, a high priority for this board. So we appreciated the mayor's leadership on that one. And finally, over the last month, the entire Prosper Portland staff participated in 3 days of racial equity training focused on creating a healthy and inclusive culture. It was led by Hanif Faisal and the Center for Equity and Inclusion. And so we will be continuing to meet with CEI and really focusing on how we can be the internal culture that we need to be. So there's a lot more upcoming events, but you can find out about all of them on our website, prosperportland.us, and I know we have a lot on our agenda, so I will leave it there for now.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Okay, next up, we will approve the minutes for the April 11th meeting. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, minutes pass unanimously. So next we have public comments for items not on the agenda. And we have one speaker, Maria Zepeda. She's the board chair with Business for a Better Portland. Would you like to join us? Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and I would like to thank Executive Director Kimberly Branham, Commissioner Chair Cruz, the rest of the commissioners, as well as Commissioner Platt for inviting me today to testify. So thank you so much for having me. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a company here in town called Switchboard, which is a tech company that works mostly in education. I'm also the founding board chair of Business for a Better Portland. and Accelerate Fund, which Kimberly just spoke of, and I'll be speaking today in my capacity as board chair for Business for a Better Portland. So Business for a Better Portland, or BBPDX, is the city's newest and fastest growing business organization. We have about 215 members, and we believe that creating shared prosperity for all is critical right now at this moment in our city. Our calls to action generally focus on sustainable transportation, equal access to capital, and support for businesses from minority entrepreneurs, as well as addressing the city's housing and homelessness crisis. From top tech companies like Zapproved to sustainable restaurants like Bamboo Sushi, which are expanding across the country, our membership crosses sectors. So although we started as tech entrepreneurs, our 215 members represent diverse types of companies. And nearly all of these business owners were previously not engaged in a business organization. It's a critical point to underscore. They are attracted to our organization because of our mission, which believes that we must advance collaborative, solutions-oriented, and community-based approaches to the challenges that we face today. So earlier last year, I was asked to be on the Mayor's Economic Advisory Council, and I was honored to be included, and it was quite a steep learning curve for someone that previously has never been a part of that process. And I realized that our members would benefit from learning more about the city's plans as well, and so BBPDX partnered with the Technology Association of Oregon, or TAO, and in February, we hosted an educational event with presentations from Bobby Lee, Prosper's Director of Economic Development, and Kyle Chesick, Mayor Wheeler's Director of Bureau Relations and Policy. That educational event was so transformative for our members because many of them previously didn't understand the policy, the process, what Prosper's work is doing, and how to engage. And so there was just a tremendous showing of paving a path to how businesses could better engage and support your work. And so inspired by what Bobby Lee proposed, we issued a call to action to our members. And what you see before you is that call to action. It was the letter that was submitted to the mayor and to council. And what we aimed to do was we mobilized over 125 businesses who submitted letters in support of Prosper's proposed budget for this year. And as a result, we were grateful to see that our support contributed to the mayor's recommendation that almost the entire request be considered this year. So we were very grateful for that opportunity to engage. I'm here today because I just want to reemphasize that we're really inspired by the impact that this public-private partnership has had, and we're very supportive of Prosper's work. And I want to take this opportunity to commend the entire Prosper team for their vision and leadership. Kimberly Branham, Bobby Lee, Michael Gurton, Catherine Kronyak, Morgan Masterson, Tori Campbell specifically have really gone above and beyond to help our members get educated around what's going on, how they can be helpful, to engage our members around solutions, and most of all, to co-create partnerships, which is so valuable, especially for younger entrepreneurs like me. And so it's just been a very inspiring and productive partnership, and I want to thank you. I know that I'm over time, but if I can request from the commissioner just 2 more minutes for quick feedback. I just wanted to share sort of 4 observations around ways that we might partner in the future and questions that we have for you. So busy entrepreneurs, especially minority entrepreneurs, don't have the luxury of time to go to meetings. And so a lot of this process is about meetings and showing up. So how can we create a more inclusive system that makes it possible for business owners' voices to be heard without having the laborious process? For people new to this process, like me, it's very useful to track the ask from Prosper and the way that that's moving through the budget process so that the council and all of us can be updated on, when things are being cut and how we might advocate for you. And so how can we think of a process that sort of follows that through a life cycle? I imagine that there are many great practices from other cities. And so it's our hope that we'll continue to learn best practices from other cities. And I think finally, there's often a mention of public and private partnerships in a lot of the work that you're doing, which we deeply believe in, which is very much why we started. And so this is so critical to the success of economic development, not only for minorities, but in general. And so how can we create better processes and procedures that make those collaborations possible? So those are just 4 observations that I had through my process.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Anybody? No?
No,
Right,
I just want to thank you again. I think as Bobby was talking about earlier, it means a lot for the staff as well as for the commissioners, I think, to have a coalition that they know has got their back in the work that they do, and that transcends these public-private divides. I look forward to engaging more directly with the business community. I think BBPDX is a wonderful platform to do that, and I hope it has a ripple effect throughout the larger business community. So I think modeling precisely what you're saying, those processes to make it easier for businesses to join and to be involved is precisely the right way to go. So thank you for getting that started.
Yeah, and thank you very much for the visionary work you're doing.
Great, thanks
Okay,
for coming.
take care.
Yeah. All right, so I neglected to mention at the outset that we have kind of a hard deadline of 5 o'clock today. So I'll be banging the gavel hard here at 5. I think we can do it. I think we have time. All right, so next up is a consent agenda item number 6, authorizing signatories for the U.S. Economic Development Administration Loan Program, resolution number 7271. I'll accept a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All right, thank you. Any further comments, discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, next, item number 7. This is an information item. This is an update on the evaluation selection of beam development for redevelopment of the ODOT blocks in the Central East Side urban renewal area. And our speakers are Lisa Aboif and Allison Wicks. Welcome, thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Cruz and Commissioners, Executive Director Branham. I'm Lisa Aboif, I'm the Development Manager, and I'm joined by Allison Wicks. And we're going to go over a brief presentation that provides you with an update on the solicitation process that we undertook for properties that we call the ODOT blocks in the Central East Side urban renewal area. And then we have some guest speakers related to the team that we have recommended for selection to Executive Director Branham. And we just wanted to give a little bit of context for what we foresee happening as next steps on the property. Thanks. Are you going to be my? So the presentation overview is that we'll walk through kind of the Central East Side context, walk through the selection process, the community outreach we undertook, and then review the recommendation and some of the next steps. Just as a reminder, the last time we were before the board was in November 2016 when we were requesting your authorization to acquire the property from ODOT. That was after multiple years of negotiations with the Oregon Department of Transportation. This has long been a priority site for the Central East Side area, and we were successful in closing on that transaction in June 2017. A portion of the parcels, and Allison will go over this further, will remain with ODOT blocks towards the western side of the redevelopable sites. And then the site was also identified as part of the Central City 2035 process that the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability undertook as a strategic site for the future of the Central East Side, particularly as we think about the critical role that the Central East Side plays as an economic development engine and a job center for Portland. So when we think about how it aligns with our strategic plan, it actually aligns in kind of 3 major areas. One, clearly around jobs. We'll go over a few, some data points for the Central East Side, but it is a really important job center for the Central City as well as the region. It has an incredibly dense population of jobs, and particularly middle income jobs. It's also, the site has long been vacant and kind of a hole in the center of the Central East Side, so the community is not only interested in how it can house the future employment of the Central East Side, but also how it complements the fabric of what surrounds it along Southeast Water as OMSI thinks about kind of their future growth and their master plan. And then it also offers opportunities for partnership, and you may hear about this a bit further, both from Allison as well as the development team. The BEAM development proposal did contemplate space available for partners like the Technology Association of Oregon that you just heard about, as well as other innovation-centered partners within our region. So again, the Central East Side has long been one of the important job centers for the central city as well as for Portland. Today, it has over 1,100 businesses and 18,000 jobs. It actually has more jobs than any other district in the central city outside of the CBD directly in downtown. And the other important thing to note about the Central East Side is these jobs are family wage occupations. So it actually kind of populates the middle income job opportunities for our community who are commuting into downtown or working in downtown. And today, industrial uses and creative businesses do sit side by side, so this was an important factor as the Central City 2035 plan contemplated rezoning of these properties, as well as the Central East Side that did increase the opportunity for what they are calling industrial office, together with more conventional industrial uses. And the area is actually projected to grow in the Central City 2035 plan by over 9,000 jobs over the next 20 or so years. And so this vacant land is going to be really critical as we think about the density of jobs that can be housed on these three properties. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Allison, who's going to go over more details about the property as well as the solicitation process.
Great, thanks, Lisa. So the developable portion of the property was acquired by Prosper Portland. We closed on that in June of 2017. The main goals were to increase job density, to add to the city's supply of industrial and commercial space, and to provide structured parking. So looking to support broader business development in an area that's seen significant employment growth and has a constrained parking supply. This is just an overview of our project timeline, where we've been and where we're going. So we issued the request for proposals in December 2017, and today we're here to share about the preferred development partner. The next steps are to work through a memorandum of understanding and a development and disposition agreement with a goal of construction start in 2019 or by the end of 2019. Our request for proposal listed the following goals for the ODOT property: to create an industrial mixed-use development, to maximize development potential, to create parking in excess of the entitlement allowed to allow for public parking as a part of the development, to consider the public realm and connections to the East Bank Esplanade, to consider the development as consistent with the Central City 2035 plan and the Prosper Portland strategic plan, for the redevelopment to be completed in a timely manner, to minimize public financing while meeting this large list of goals, and to meet the Prosper Portland financial sustainability goal of a 6% return to the agency. And then finally, to build partnerships focusing on equity. This is a long list of goals that we've already seen come at odds at each other in the proposals that we received. One question that we want you all to keep in mind today is, as we're moving forward and trying to balance these competing goals, as we enter into negotiations, what are your priorities? So our evaluation committee is made up of stakeholders from the Central East Side, including business owners and representatives from the Central East Side Industrial Council, also staff from Commissioner Fish's office and the Office of Mayor Wheeler. The evaluation committee was able to come to a consensus-based, unanimous decision to recommend the Beam development team as the preferred development partner. We received 6 submittals, all of which were reviewed by staff. 4 were deemed responsive and complete and reviewed then by the community-based evaluation committee. The evaluation committee shortlisted 2 teams for interviews and made the final recommendation of Beam development. This is just a quick overview of the Beam development team. A few of them are here today and will likely introduce themselves and share their motivations to be involved in this project. Beam is leading a team consisting of Coles Construction, McKenzie, and Hacker Architects, all of which are locally based companies. In addition, Beam is committed to providing space for the Industry Innovation and Inclusion Hub, or the I3H, which Lisa mentioned, which consists of a partnership between the Innovation Quadrant, the Technology Association of Oregon, the Portland Incubator Experiment, and Built Oregon. The evaluation committee recommended this BEAM team because of the quality of their proposed project, their business terms, and their interest in meeting the Prosper Portland strategic plan goals. And then also their significant experience in the Central East Side with projects of comparable scale and complexity, the experience across the team in addressing and understanding the priority for racial equity and inclusion in construction and business operations, BEAM's expertise in designing projects that support small business growth and create flexible spaces for businesses to enter the market and to grow. And then also BEAM's past experience in working in successful public-private partnerships with Prosper Portland. So our next steps are to work on a non-binding memorandum of understanding and then work towards a development and disposition agreement. That's the time when this item would come back to the board again with the goal of construction start in sometime in 2019. Within that time frame, there'll also be continued community engagement about the project. With that, I guess I want to say just a quick thank you to our evaluation committee who volunteered time to be a part of it, as well as Commissioner Gambetti, who participated as well. And also want to mention that 3 of our 4 finalists, our proposals were all from local companies. So that was really great to see local development teams put projects forward for this. And then I also want to thank the Prosper Portland staff, especially Geraldine Moyle, who without her, we wouldn't who knows where we would be, really. And I guess with that, we can either take questions or bring up.
I think we'll go ahead and have our guests, and then if you could come back after that, that'd be great. So we have 3 guests, Jonathan Malzahn and Jesse Ledesma from Beam Development, and Andrew Cullis from Cullis Construction. Welcome. Thanks for coming today.
Chair Cruz and Commissioners, thanks for having us. Jonathan Malzahn with Beam Development.
Jesse Ledesma with Beam Development. Thank you.
I'm Andrew Cullis, Cullis Construction. Good afternoon.
We'll try to keep it short because you guys don't have a lot of time. But just to start, we've been working the Central East Side, our company, Beam Development, for almost 20 years. And we're really passionate about working with small businesses. And that's how we've really built our business. And we're passionate about building relationships with entrepreneurs and helping them grow, whether that's staying in our portfolio or moving outside of our portfolio. And I think part of the story, excuse me, that we tried to tell in our proposal was our passion for building those relationships with entrepreneurs and giving them opportunities to grow, to really grow their businesses. And, you know, we've done that. I think part of what we emphasized in our interview with the selection committee was our willingness to approach projects a little differently than other developers in that we're really open to flexible floor plans that can break down to really granular rent rolls that allow small businesses an opportunity to come into our spaces. And we're not singularly focused on credit tenants that already have established companies or established, high levels of credit. That really kind of precludes a lot of local entrepreneurs from getting into the Central East Side. And I think that strategy has been really, I know it's been really successful for us. Our portfolio is full, and there's been a lot of opportunity for us to continue to develop projects in the Central East Side. And we're really thrilled to have Cullis Construction on our team and Hacker and McKenzie all. Both Hacker and McKenzie are now in the Central East Side. We've been in the Central East Side for almost 20 years, and we're trying to get Andrew to move his company to the Central East Side when we build the project. And just to speak a little bit to our partnership with Cullis, really gives us an opportunity to partner with best contractor in driving, I think, the best outcomes from an equity perspective. And that doesn't only stop with construction, but also how we program the project generally. So giving opportunities for early stage companies, again, without credit, but also our partnership with the Innovation Quadrant, TAO, PI, and Built Oregon, and our goal to provide them with free space in the project to catalyze both catalyze the project, but also to build a network throughout the community, and especially disadvantaged communities throughout the city to bring, create opportunities for people to plug into what we think is going to be a really catalytic project at the ODOT blocks. So thank you.
Well, I'm just really excited to be here today. Obviously, representing the construction side of this project, but we've been involved as far as the whole early development stage of it from the start. Both Jonathan and I were, family businesses that we're part of. Our fathers have been involved in our companies all our lives. We've actually known each other since high school, so we're always able to banter back and forth on the great asset that we have in having very fathers that have done really great things in this community. At the same time, fathers that really drive us hard. So we're excited about working together on this. And then I just see this as not only a win for our company as far as the construction side goes, but all the subcontractors that we work with on a regular basis. As our company has grown, we've always made sure that the companies that have always been a part of our core team and base have grown as well. So getting this this opportunity to work on such a flagship project in the city that I'm from and love is really exciting for me, and I'm really excited to see it create a lot of opportunities and economic benefit to a lot of other communities that will reap benefits from this project overall. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Great, thank you. Thanks. For any questions, comments?
I'll just say real quickly, you guys put together a fantastic proposal and have a great team, so I'm excited that you guys went out on this one. One theme that kind of came through in kind of all the proposals and an issue that was talked about in your interview was some of the conflicting goals and the idea of trying to maximize the development capacity. And I think that's going to be a really interesting process to see you guys work through with Prosper Portland to try and figure out that balance of what's the appropriate scale, and how can we play with that factor in reducing the costs and therefore increasing affordability of space. So that's something you guys talked about a lot. I don't know if you maybe for 1 minute want to kind of respond to that concept. And I think what we saw was different different proposals come through trying to address that scale in different ways. You guys came at it very honestly saying maximizing the full development capacity of the site isn't necessarily a viable approach. You took kind of a middle ground on that, but then came to the interview saying, you know what, if we reduce it even further, we think we can get costs way down and therefore make more affordable space, which I think are interesting, conflicting goals that you guys are going to be grappling with.
Yeah, I can speak to that. It's a really critical, it's an important question, one that we spent a lot of time thinking about. As you mentioned, when we first started looking at the 3 blocks, we quickly masked the highest, entitlements for the site, which result in high-rise buildings with a lot of above-grade parking. And we also took a look at kind of one of the lowest rise, like a 2-story, low-cost industrial shed-type structure in terms of the most affordable space. And as you mentioned, we landed kind of in between. We really like the kind of mid-rise 5- or 6-story CLT wood-framed construction. We completed a project of that scale with that construction type in the Central East Side last year, and we're about to start construction on one. And we like the resulting interior space. It's a reasonable cost if we keep the structure under 75 feet. And it's a really desirable type of space for the type of tenants that we're looking to serve. But we're also really excited about exploring a lower cost industrial kind of steel framed structure option that potentially even one of the blocks could employ. So it's something that we're going to dive right into with our architecture team and with our construction team to start striking that balance that is meeting some of these needs and getting some more input from Prosper on really what's a higher priority, affordability or higher density and parking.
Just a quick question around community programming, because that is, those blocks have been used over the, I don't know how many years that they've been empty for a variety of different purposes, right? For community, everything from salsa events to you name it. So I'm curious about how you've thought through the public access and public use of that part of the Central East Side, because it's right down, it's the center of the Central East Side, right? It's the most kind of visible part of it, and obviously it's going to be a signature project for the city as well as for Prosper. So I'm just kind of curious how you've envisioned the public interaction with that space.
Well, I think in addition to having some retail that both serves the immediate, employment, employees in the area, but also could be a draw for people to come and interact with the project, but also reinforcing the connections from Water Avenue down to the Esplanade, which is one of the greatest assets I think that we have. And having worked off of Water Avenue for, the last 10 years, the ODOT blocks are really right now a barrier to the Esplanade. And so this is really an opportunity to work with our architects and our landscape designers to actually, pull people down to the Esplanade, which is that amazing public, access point. And then we also want to, or public amenity, we also want to work with ODOT, which we haven't had an opportunity to talk to them yet, about the remnant parcels. So if we're trying to push efficient floor plates, we're going to want to develop most, if not all, of the sites that we, would want to acquire from Prosper. But there will be remnant parcels with ODOT, and are there things that we can do with them to creatively activate what we can't develop on? So presumably upgrade those, pave them, put in stormwater, and then, have that available for, events that also then, drives connectivity to the Esplanade. So that's certainly a goal of ours. Until we can we haven't been able to talk to ODOT, so it's been a little hard to dream too big.
Anything else? Okay. Well,
So with our aggressive workforce training and hiring requirements that would be attached to these properties, what do you see as partnerships you need to build to accomplish that?
Well, I don't know that we need to necessarily build any partnerships that we don't already have. I think what we want to do is just make sure that people are aware of this project in particular, the different benefits that the project will bring to the overarching community. And then my goal is always to find ways to exceed some of those goals and work together with you as Prosper Portland to say, how are these goals benefiting the whole community? So if there's ways that we can even improve upon those goals, those are the conversations that we as a company want to have with you, and just find ways to make those goals better and better. Because the goal for me as a company isn't just apprenticeship, and we've talked about this, it's getting individuals to understand the beauty of the trades and how to journey. So I see this as an opportunity to do that. I know the different subcontractors that we work with, specifically a lot of the subs that are parts of community of color, they see this as an opportunity as well. So I just want to find ways to continue to not only meet the goals, but to build and improve upon those goals. So we're thrilled.
Thank you.
Yeah.
great, thank you. No? Okay. All right, well, thanks very much for coming today. That was
Thank
great.
you all very
it's
much.
Very exciting, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Any questions for staff? No? Okay, thank you very much. Oh, are you sure? Okay. Okay, great. Well, thanks very much. It was a great presentation, and thanks to everybody for coming. Yeah. Okay, so next up, we have item 8, which is an update on the Prosperity Investment Program. And Mr. Campbell and Sue Lewis will join us today. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Tori Campbell, and I manage our entrepreneurship and community economic development teams here at Prosper Portland. And I'm accompanied with our program manager for the Prosperity Investment Program, Sue Lewis. And we're just going to give you a bit of an update on the program. This is something that we brought to you a little over a year and a half ago. It's a recalibrated program with the intent of, again, trying to spur wealth creation for business owners as well as long-term property owners. And so we're just going to give you a bit of an update and some of the things that have stood out, either some of the areas where we feel like we're finally making traction on really addressing kind of the question that anchors all of our activities that our executive director kind of hammers into us, which was at the end of all of this activity, like who benefits, you know? And so I would say many of the things we're going to present to you today actually show that there are a number of individuals who are benefiting from the program in its current form. And yet at the same time, we know it should be something that we should celebrate with kind of like but but not like you can't get too happy, but just, because it should be something that should be just normalized, like an institutionalized thing that we don't have to celebrate in the ways that we currently are when we're talking about people that historically have not benefited in the same way. So today it is a good day of reflection, an opportunity to celebrate, but also a chance to continue to be very circumspective of how do we improve on the outcomes we see today. So I'll just go ahead and start by giving you a bit of a backstory. Again, the kind of the theme that stands out for this program has really been around like emphasizing prosperity in terms of it being shared, in terms of it being abundant, in terms of it showing up in all the different places throughout a city that we want and expect and hope. The program as an overview, again, it was a recalibration of several programs that have been in play for many years. Our storefront improvement was launched in 1989, which was really about the emphasis of improving facades, signage and lighting outside of buildings, kind of architectural assistance. The Development Opportunity Services, which was also launched in 1996, was another program that really took into play the development feasibility analysis. And then the third one, which was our Green Futures program, which was launched in 2007, which uses energy saving devices and systems. So all these programs that have been in existence have been wildly popular. And yet at the same time, again, we were asking the question, but who's benefiting? And more importantly, are there other elements that can be enfolded into this to make it even more robust and more effective? And one of the areas that we found was a gap, was the need for many businesses to help reduce some of the startup costs around their tenant improvements. And so this is another way that we could find a way to kind of manipulate the programming in order to allow businesses to get the full maximum benefit of the program. And so we've hence changed the name. We've incorporated the first 3 programs that I've already highlighted, and we've also incorporated a component that allows for tenant improvements, and we call it our PIP grant. Again, it works for small scale, kind of real property improvements. It's offered in our following urban renewal areas that are listed here: the Interstate Corridor, Lentz, Gateway, the River District, and Downtown Waterfront. I'll just spend the next few moments just talking about the process of how does a business come into these programs, what is the way in which we move them along. Each of the urban renewal areas has distinctive action plans, which we'll get into in just a moment, but up to $50,000 for most urban renewal areas is the way in which the PIP grant is utilized with the 50-50 match. The Interstate Corridor urban renewal area is the only one that offers up to $75,000 with the 25 match, so it's a 75 to 25, and that comes up from the action plan that was developed over the last 2 years, really seeing the need to double down in that community, in particular, really wanting to have an emphasis on ensuring that entrepreneurs of color, in particular African-American businesses, were able to benefit and utilize those dollars. So the first thing I think is important to note, I've mentioned this, is that the program works best when it's accompanied with an action plan that kind of guides its principles. The mechanics of how it works and how the team administers it's all the same, but yet each action plan has some unique elements to it that definitely continue to help flesh out how businesses can benefit from the program, as well as long-term property owners. So that just kind of gives you a little bit of a sense of the action plans in the different urban renewal areas. Also, we also wanted to highlight that, oftentimes people reference Prosper Portland as an entity, like I love Prosper Portland, or I don't like Prosper Portland, or I benefited from Prosper Portland is what we love to hear the most. But they're actually individuals that do the work. And so we really wanted to highlight the fact that there are what we call relationship managers that have been assigned to our different urban renewal areas, that they're the ones that typically are the first intake, so to speak, either to engage businesses, or if they hear of a business, we reference them to them. Some of you, I think even Commissioner Moreland Kapua, you asked me, hey, I have someone in the Northeast, who do I point them to? And in that case, it would be Kimberly Moreland. And so the relationship managers do a really great job of helping those businesses or long-term property owners understand what is entailed within the grant, how do they access it, and how do they move them forward. And then last but not least, I can't be remiss if I were to sit here and say that the work gets done magically by itself. It actually is done by 3 amazing women Sue, who I'll give a chance to share more of the details of what's happening. But I just, as a manager, I'm very proud of the work. So much of what we have seen as positive accomplishments this year, new inroads into more equitable efforts and outcomes, as a testament to them working together, them trying to be collaborative, them trying to think out the box, and just delivering on services of over 90 grants so far this year. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Sue and let her share more of the details.
Good afternoon, Chair Cruz, Commissioners. My name is Sue Lewis. I'm a project coordinator with the PIP team, as Tori mentioned. And my job here is to basically, I get to wow you with the numbers here. The PIP grant began in September 2016. And since then, we have either approved or active or completed 90 projects totaling about $3.7 million. And the breakdown is 1.5 in grant funds to 2.2 in private, leveraging about $1.48. Okay, so part of the changes in the program was to provide equity impacts. And for this, I need my glasses, sorry. And so as to increase equity and to increase business competitiveness to achieve a positive outcome. So with those 90 grants, 42 were first-time recipients, 45 are under construction or completed utilizing, as you see, a minority or women contractor. So we break down the applicants by property owner and tenant because the applicant determines who actually pays the match. As Tori mentioned, it's either a 50-50 match or a 75-25. And so far, we've got 64% of the projects have been awarded to property owners who actually have 28 who have owner occupied, and 30 of that have actual tenants in the building. So 30 of the property owners actually have paid the match to increase the business, to improve the business. And then we have 32 of the grants were for tenants. Tenants were the applicant who provided the match, which 22 were new businesses, which, you know, it's a significant, these are small projects, but it's a significant amount of money to the tenants because it helps them reduce their startup costs. It's very important that way. Another way that we break it down, and because we want to increase our equity, is by tenure by persons of color. And you'll see that 69% of the property owners were actually property owners of color, and 63% were to the tenants. So this slide here will show you a visual of where majority of our grants were issued. You see it's been mostly in interstate, and most of those are actual property owners and people of color. Interstates are a pretty large URA and has a really long-standing commercial corridors versus, say, out in the outer east areas, but we're slowly bringing those numbers up. September 2016 to the end of March is where the numbers will come from. We do plan to come back and progressively provide new figures, updates on those numbers. So the other accomplishment that we want to emphasize is on minority and women contracting. Of the 90 grants, this is how it broke down for how much funds went to minority-owned contractors and to non-minorities. We have a goal in the program is we strive for each recipient to achieve 20% or more, and you can see that on average, the grants achieved a 66% utilization rate, which is really great. So, so keep in mind that a lot of the projects here are small. The average is $81,000, and the grant on average has awarded $31,000 of that. And so a lot of times the contractor is a single sole proprietor performing the work, and so that's one of the reasons why this figure is probably higher. But when it is a larger project, what we do is we encourage the general contractor, if they are not a women or minority-owned contractor, to utilize subcontractors. And so that gives subcontractors generally, you know, like a single proprietor painter. This gives him an opportunity to create relationships with general contractors, opening up more opportunities for them. So then what we, lessons learned, that was, one of the lessons learned is that it takes a lot of work. When we started the storefront grant program, it was really focused towards storefront improvements. How do we improve the facade of this building? It's now shifting into PIP, what we're doing is we're going inside and saying, how do we improve the interior to increase business for this property owner or tenant? So it's allowed us, staff have had to shift their mindset and think differently outside the box, as Tori mentioned. The projects can be very complex. We have to take in a lot of consideration with land use, building codes, occupancy issues, fire and life safety. We educate the property owner who's not used to, who is not schooled, I would say, in the development process or rehabbing their building. We want to guide them to utilize the funds to be as effective as possible so that it maximizes their return. We also realize that startup costs are very expensive, and so they quickly drains the project budget. So we've been able to come up with ways to help the business or property owner by phasing the projects out, 1, 2, 3 phases, so they do a little bit each time and can replenish their funds. We also are able to pay the contractor directly if that is helping to reduce the financial burden on the recipient. We also realize it takes time because we need to talk to them about how do you get a minority, connect them with associations that help provide these services such as MCIP, AWAMI, NAMCO, and I know those are acronyms, but I can't remember the, I hope you're all familiar with those. And then, when we've explained to the recipient why we're asking for a 20% participation and how they might be able to do it, we show it as it's a positive rather than a negative. It's not a burden. And most of the times, I would say, obviously over 66% of the time or more, people get it and they're very willing to think outside the box. So what we're going to do now is we're going to watch a video of an actual grant recipient. Then we have a recipient in the audience who will come and talk, share her experience, and then we'll take some questions. So the video is William Travis, who owns Dub St. John's. He's a native of Portland native. He is the son of Lurlane Shamsuddin, who is a former resident of Vanport. And the video highlights his connection with the St. John's Center for Opportunity. It's a Main Street program and Prosperity Investment Program. So.
My name is William Travis III. I'm the owner of Dub St. John's. So Dub St. John's is a inspired restaurant. Currently, we're rated top 21 soul food kitchens in the United States of America. We're famous for our chicken and waffles. We have ribs and brisket and pulled pork. And we do a lot of southern style sides like mac and cheese, barbecue baked beans, collard greens, candied yams, garlic mashed potatoes. And we also have sandwiches and salads too. We do a lot of catering as well. What attracted me to the restaurant industry, because I was involved in music. So I promoted a lot of clubs and parties and stuff, and then ended up having to do some catering within that party planning, and ended up starting a catering business in 2009. Kind of fell from catering into actually owning a restaurant. St. John's Center for Opportunity told me that maybe some assistance available, so I started looking into it and contacted Prosper Portland. And a gentleman named Damian Crowder came out and spoke with me and told me a little more details about it. My business was in the interstate urban renewal area, that I may be available. So I actually kind of started looking for places a little more aggressively to
We'll pause that.
So while we're fixing that, Damian Crowder works on our team. He is works on the MPIs in St. John's, is one of the districts that he works in.
I know.
So while they are working, how technology is, it doesn't want to behave when you need it. So, but we'll continue to move forward. I guess one of the things I want to highlight is the dramatic jump from the 20% aspirational to actually we're seeing 66%. A lot of that is not magic, it's just intentionality. And I think it's again reflective of what Sue and Pam and Nixie are doing in terms of both how they're explaining the opportunities that are present for a general contractor to consider a sub that's a minority or a woman, as well as the relationships with the organizations and just creating easier systems for them to move to that place of finding who they are and highlighting them. And again, I think what we're also finding is that if you're ready, I can stop rambling.
Somewhere that was in the interstate urban renewal area. After we secured the location, I talked to Damian a little bit about what might be available, and he told me about the PIP program. We use the PIP program to help us with our new signage. We also used it to help us get a new air conditioning system within our new location. We're using it for new flooring and lighting, and just to kind of help make our space more inviting, more functional. I'm very, very appreciative of having a program like Prosper Portland and the PIP grants available to young entrepreneurs and people of color, women, to help our businesses be more viable in the community. Advice that I would give to small business owners is to be very focused on your dream. Have a clear picture of what you want to achieve and who you want to help with your business, and go for it. And do something every single day to achieve your dream.
Do I get control now? Okay. This was the slide to introduce you to Deb St. John's. Then next up, we're going to have An Nguyen, who purchased this property in the Lentz URA. And you can see the before and after. She purchased the building in 2016. She heard about Prosper Portland through her architect and through her own research on our website. So I'll set aside, and then we'll take questions.
Thank you. Welcome. Thanks for taking the time to come today.
Thank you. Hi, my name is An, and this is my mother. We immigrated here in 1992. Right when my dad got out of concentration camp, he was in the Vietnam War, siding with the U.S., fighting against the communists. So he was arrested and was in concentration camp. So when we got here, my parent is really big on education. It's all she said is just be a productive member of the United States. Thanks for him to get us to come over here. So she proved her point by go to college and at the same time struggling with 2 jobs. So while she's going through that, my grandma have taught her this recipe, this meatloaf recipe, hoping that she can sell it our Sunday church. Every Sunday we have this Vietnamese community church that have like roughly 900 Vietnamese family. So she would sell there. And so that's what she's been doing, trying to get more money to afford. There's 6 of us, 3 boys, 3 girls, and she put all of us to college. Actually, no, she only gave each of us $8,000. Be like, you got to go college, be somebody. 8,000's enough. And I went to Oregon Institute of Technology. I graduated with a bachelor degree in respiratory practitioner. I work in Kaiser Sinai Medical Center in their ICU right now, and I've been working with them 10 years now. After all of us graduated from college, my mom decided that what to do with her business, what to do with selling meat. So I told my mom, I was like, oh, I kind of don't like to do what I'm doing. I like to do, business. She was like, nope, keep on going. So I, working with Kaiser behind her back, opened a business. So I opened a beauty salon in Lake Oswego for 2 to 3 years. On top of, I worked 2 jobs, working for Kaiser at nighttime, and then opening my business daytime. And then when she was talking about giving up her business, I thought, it's such a good business, we should start it. And then at the same time, my mom also said that my uncle who just got out of concentration camp too, who also imprisoned at the same time with my dad, but didn't get released. So they are about to come here. So I thought, this is a good opportunity. So to open a business, I decided to sell my salon and get that money, get a loan, and to buy a piece of property. I was like, oh, it's kind of spendy, especially right on 82nd. I decided to get a loan, and then got the place, and my architect came in and was like, do you know there's a fund? I was like, okay. So I looked into it. I went online, kind of Google search at Prosper Portland, and I found the grant. I just randomly called random people, and they direct me to Sue, and I got the grant, and it was fabulous. I mean, Sue have worked. I struggled 2 jobs, a newborn, and then trying to get this grant and this new deli place to open. So, yeah. And so my sister also graduated from Columbia University in New York, one of the Ivy League college. Decided to open her own deli too behind my mom back. So she have a business over there in New York, running her own deli. And we all knew, except for my mom, she didn't know anything about it. She graduated with her master in teaching she teach for one of the public school, public university, college over there, and also running her deli too. So I said, you know what, let's come back here, we'll work together. And she did. So she decided, and so my uncle, they finally get to come to US, she decided to bring all of them into New York, train them over there, have them work for her. And one of my cousin that's working for her over there right now take over her business with having all my uncle work for them over there. And she came back here, and here with right now we are gonna have it open in May 18, yeah, May 18. And then my brother, who also graduated from engineering school at UP, is gonna join in and do it with us. It's gonna be a family run, and then some of my uncle's gonna come back here, and we're gonna have our whole family running this business. Yeah. And thanks a lot for the grant, Sue. I really appreciate it.
Well, what were some of the things that the interior? Oh yeah, congratulations. So yeah, you can see the before and the after, and they did a phenomenal amount of work. So thank you, Anna. Really appreciate you and your mom. Happy Mother's Day. Yeah. Congratulations. Down, and so we'll look forward to your May 18th opening. So we'll open it up for questions.
All right. We have questions from the commissioner?
Congratulations. I mean,
Thank
what
you.
an incredible story. You have an amazing family. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. I always love how she always said American is where a dream come true, and I believe it.
Oh, fantastic.
What is the location?
Oh, it's right on between between Foster and Woodstock, right on 82nd, sir.
Okay.
I live nearby. I can't wait.
Yeah, we make our fresh we make our fresh tofu every day. We do our fresh baguette and barbecue pork and duck, and we do her meatloaf, which we've been providing for a lot of restaurant around here and all the deli around in Portland.
Well, and I'm thrilled to see that you guys own it too.
Yes.
To see that, because that area is going to be transforming, and so to know that you guys have some security there,
Yeah,
as
definitely.
opposed to being a tenant, that's really great too.
Yeah, super. Do you have something?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say thank you as well. I was up here, I was like, oh, onions, I need to fan my eyes, so thank you very much. Yeah, but yes, but no, thank you for the work, for the tenacity, and for your story today. And I also want to thank the team here at Prosper Portland. I think it's tremendous that you get these kind of numbers, and I want to repeat back to you some of the things that I heard you say that I think could be an example for other projects moving forward. We don't just get these goals just out of the air. It's intentionality and real focus. And one of the lessons that you said you learned in this process was, Sue, was that it takes time, right? So it's time, opening up and expanding the opportunity for folks to kind of plug in. It's not oftentimes that they can't. Sometimes they miss the window of opportunity because maybe sometimes we're moving too fast. So I think that in order to achieve sort of equity goals and inclusion goals, the real model might rest in the issue of time and creating the space. So thank you for the work that you've done and continue to do. And thank you for being, and happy Mother's Day to everybody who's mothers.
We have a salad roll.
Yes, well, thank you so much for coming. That was really an inspirational story. It's fantastic. And just congratulations on all your great work. And thank you to the staff. You've done some amazing things in 2 years. I just can't believe all the great outcomes since 2016. So great work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We look forward to coming back and telling you more stories.
Yeah, great. Please do. And I'll be out there to eat.
Thank you so much.
I'm so hungry now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great. All right. I think we're perfect timing. We're actually a little bit early. How about that? So thanks very much. This meeting of Prosper Portland Board of Commissioners is now adjourned.